The unconscious is a reality in potential. The thought that we will think, the action we will perform, and even the fate we will regret tomorrow are already unconscious today. Future possibilities of development can also manifest themselves, perhaps in an emotional explosion that radically transforms a situation. Carl Jung in Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious. The self, in Carl Jung's analytical psychology, is the central archetype that represents the totality of the personality, and there is search for integration between the conscious and the unconscious aspects of the psyche. It transcends unity that includes both the conscious and the unconscious. And it is also the center of the so-called individuation process, represented by everything that a person can become and everything that a person, he or she, is at the same time. To reach the self, one must go through individuation, a psychological process of becoming a complete and unique individual, capable of dealing with life's challenges in a conscious and creative way. This process involves the integration of the conscious and the unconscious aspects of the personality, resulting in a more balanced, a more authentic, and a more aware person of himself or herself, as well as his or her actions. Individuation is an ongoing process that can be triggered by life events such as crises, challenges, dreams, and profound experiences of personal transformation. At the same time, it is very similar to the Nietzschean term of the Übermensch or the Superman, that it is not a specific state that a person acquires and stays throughout her own life, but more like a rock of Sisyphus, in which one has to strive to putting this rock onto the top of the mountain just to see it fall back to below, and then doing and repeating it every single day. The individuation process, or the Übermensch for Nietzsche, therefore, is more like a process instead of a state. The quest for individuation involves confronting the unconscious, discovering and integrating its contents, and undertaking a personal journey towards wholeness and autonomy. The self is the center of the individuation process, therefore, and its integration is an essential step toward realizing the wholeness of the personality. Jung emphasized that the process of individuation is a personal and unique process that must be adapted to each individual, therefore individuation, respecting their history, their culture, and their personal values. Achieving individuation is not an end goal, but rather an ongoing process of discovery and personal development throughout one's life. Thus, according to his time and space, the period which he lives, the history he had, and everything that leads his culture to that specific point. The individual himself needs to integrate these parts of himself, this neurosis of the personal unconscious, with the transcendental archetypes of duality of the collective unconscious. Therefore, the persona and the shadow, the anima, the animus, and his cognitive functions, and several others that we can abstract from him. Apparently, several models can help him express this for his individuation, but they still need the light of the individual's unconsciousness. It is like the mold of the culture acting on the individual's substance from within. The understanding of oneself as something beyond uniform and as more multifaceted. For Jung, one of the greatest symbols of the self will be the mandala. But in a poetic way, we can also interpret it as the solar system, with several archetypes surrounding it. In mathematics, some theorems such as the Mandelbrot set can also represent both these ideas, as it arranged to be a set that shows two things. First, the complete chaos, but at the same time, too, the predictability of it in amidst of that. An idea of sic parvis magna, showing how great things are also made up of small parts as well. The same happens with our lives. Small actions and decisions that we make can change enormous paths of our lives. Tiny things that we do every single day can change our entire way of being and acting in the world and, of course, of our future. Regarding the interpretation of symbols such as mandalas, Jung postulates that not only the images should be analyzed, but also the colors, the positions, the movements of the drawings and their directions. In particular, always reviewing in Asian literature and myths and representations of this drawing that are similar or alike. Finally, we can mention the practice of circumambulation. It is not specifically a method or a process that is used in psychotherapy, but nevertheless, it is more of a result of not only pursuing therapy, but also of practicing it. As a technique to help the patient to explore and understand an archetypal symbol that appears in dreams and images or fantasies. Circumambulation is based on the idea that an archetypal symbol contains multiple layers of meaning, which can be explored in different ways. Whether it is within your mind just to think about and through something like a situation, a symbol, an idea, or even about yourself or society, it can also just be about leaving your home and going to explore the world. Circumambulation is based on this idea that an archetypal symbol contains multiple layers of meaning, which can be explored in different ways. Instead of trying to understand the symbol in a linear and rational way, this process involves exploring the experience of the symbol from multiple perspectives through the analysis of these multiple layers and meanings for one single person. It is usually carried out in steps that may include first, symbolical exploration, like describing the archetypal symbol that appears in the dreams, in images, in fantasies, or in the media fiction you've just watched. Then you can do a personal association with it that would involve exploring your personal associations with the symbol, including past experiences and associating with your emotions, with the emotions you had. For example, you had a dream of a person dying, but then you became happy with that. What does this feeling that you have within this dream tells about you, yourself? Or even to explore your own desires, like what do your goals in life tell about yourself in a more essential way? For example, myself, I want to go to Germany, but at the same time I really like to play video games. So what does playing video games or what going to Germany may mean to me? And the answer that I myself give is that, for example, I really like to solve very difficult problems. So video games are a way for me to do specific that. And also going to German, it takes so many different steps to get to this point, like learning a new language, to learn the steps you need to take to go there, like the universities you need, the knowledge you need, and therefore all these things really help me myself to express these intrinsic characteristics that I have outside in a social way as well. Other ways that you can do that is through cultural exploration of these symbols, which is exploring the cultural and historical associations of the symbol, including history and mythology, like what does the culture tells about this? An example of that would be like the patriarchy that so many people see as bad and as a detrimental thing. But at the same time, using psychoanalysis, for example, the Freud technique of reverting the symbology of things, you can say that everything that has such a negative effect on other people, like negative emotions, can also have a different counterpart of positive emotions. So if the patriarchy, so to speak, is a bad thing, when reverted, you can try to explore and analyze, well, why does these people keep talking only bad things about that? Could it be that they actually desire these things that they seem to hate? Or that this thing that they hate actually provides some sort of pleasure for them? Well, I will not dwell on these ideas for now, but I can tell, like, for example, those guys who really like red pill, for example, they seem to tell that they hate women, but at the same time they speak about women like every single day throughout the whole day. So even though they may express negative feelings towards women, you can also revert it that they really feel pleasure, or at least they wanted to feel pleasure by talking about them. So it is very difficult, and we'll probably need another video just to talk about that. Because an ending part of all of this is a synthesis and integration. So it is never only taking into consideration one single of these aspects, like the individual, the symbolical, the collective processes, but also trying to synthesize different perspectives and layers of meaning of the symbol until finding a way to integrate it all in your personal life and then expressing to other people as well. This process of symbolical interpretation is a creative and intuitive process that can lead into a deeper understanding of the archetypal symbol of the self, helping the person to integrate unconscious aspects of this personality and then finding on themselves and to a way to develop to a greater understanding of their own personal life. So let's look at another example. Canadian psychologist Jordan B. Peterson theorizes how the symbolism of archetypes is often represented in films and books, in media in general, and in anything that tells us a story. Such archetypes are our own reflection and can be even taken from passages of the Bible, as Peterson himself is willing to do with his videos on YouTube, which we identify as significant and incorporate into our own personal lives. Peterson has also dedicated himself to studying archetypes from classic films such as Pinocchio, which specifically tells us about the transition of childhood to adolescence and then to adulthood. For example, within an hour of this movie, the film ends up showing a place called the Pleasure Island, where you have everything you could possibly want to consume and desire, without having to work for it, a place where everyone just do what they want in pure hedonism. The only people who found themselves in this place were actually lost teenagers, who saw it as a kind of paradise, especially since they had nowhere else to go. These teenagers had no identity, and so they turned to these immediate pleasures because it was the only solution that they could find. The problem with this immediate pleasure, as the film itself shows, is that in reality things propagate over time. That is, just because something else seems to work in the present, in the now, it doesn't mean that it will continue to work in the future as well. Therefore, some people tend to seek this immediate pleasure because it is the best thing that they can imagine. It is also the best thing that they have learned to do, so they become conditioned to wanting this. They do not think it is possible to see an alternative, generating in themselves a fear of responsibility and a fear of the unknown. This happens because the responsibilities are a prerequisite for adult life, and this transformation will metaphorically kill or symbologically kill this teenager and all the pleasures involved. That is, the archetype of the death or the sacrifice. For an adult, it is necessary to be responsible at work, in their relationships, in the way they spend money, among many other things that for a teenager are despicable in first hand. In this way, what to avoid is exactly what would be your cure. Sacrificing this childlike pluripotentiality is extremely necessary, since in one way or the other, the world will do it for you. Maturity has its requirements. The first being the death of your parents, albeit metaphorically or symbologically, and related to the creation of the independence in order to be able to create your own self, your own identity throughout this responsibility. Carl Jung called the people who had not gone through this transformation as the pure aeternos, or in other words, the child man. In short, the film represents the idea of the archetype of the child, Pinocchio, maturing into adulthood, the individuation, rescuing his father, the culture, the great father, the protector, or the past, from the belly of the whale, which is the unconscious, and bringing him back to home, which is the consciousness state, and to the light. In the end, Pinocchio is rewarded for his pilgrimage and maturation process by having his wish being granted for him by the blue fairy, which is the nature, the great mother, the benevolent one, or just the causal and effects of your actions. After all, if you do things, other things will happen. They are, so to speak, natural. Therefore, the blue fairy. And his wish was just to become a real child, so to achieve the self. And in our next video, we will try to see how to achieve this individuation through what we call cognitive functions, or what Jung called the psychological types, or more broadly speaking, the 16 personalities, or the MBTI.